Good to be with you. Thank everybody for coming and being a part of worship. Appreciate Russ leading us in singing. We're looking this month, if you remember, at this kingdom as we have been throughout the year, and in particular, this month we're looking at and talking about this unshakable and unconquerable kingdom. We've looked at several aspects of that, several things in which we conquer. And this morning, we're giving our attention to overcoming darkness. I don't know what it is, but most of us, at least at one point in our life, have been afraid of the dark, right? I tell you the truth, I'm still afraid of the dark, right? The dog starts barking outside, going crazy. I don't know if it's a coon or a person, and I'm scared. I'm scared. You see me shaking out there with a spotlight, hoping that I don't find anybody. A little frightening. It's just the darkness. Nobody has to tell you to be afraid of the dark. I don't know why, but even as little children, right? Turn on the light. Let me see. Every day I hear that. Can you turn on the light for me? Well, you know where everything's at, but we're afraid of the dark. It's almost like something is built into us to make us fear the darkness. And whatever that is, it definitely transfers into the spiritual realm, doesn't it? We're looking at several aspects of that this morning. And I think before we get into the idea of darkness per se, there's good news, right? Because we have the ability as Christians, right? Followers of God, we have this ability to let the light shine, right? Just as, the dog's barking outside, I'm scared of what I'm going to find. The first thing that I grab is a light because I want to see as Christians, we use the light of the world. And that idea in particular is fascinating to me because Jesus is the light of the world. I'm grabbing this spotlight out of my drawer next to my bed. That's where I keep it in case anybody wants it. I grab that spotlight, and that spotlight, it can shine from here to the street out there. But it's only in a very specific area, right? Or maybe you flip on these lights or any light in your room and it lights up the room. But it doesn't extend anywhere else, right? Jesus, as the light of the world, has the capability to shine the whole world, to light up the whole world. And we'll look at that in a few moments. But that idea, that concept in and of itself is very interesting. Jesus said so much about himself in John chapter 8 and verse 12. I hope you have your Bibles. We're looking at a lot of different scriptures this morning. But in John chapter 8 and verse 12, one of those I am statements that Jesus makes about himself, the existing one, the I am, he says in chapter 8 and verse 12, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. I'm always intrigued when I think about the days of creation, or we sing about it, or we talk about it, the days of creation. On day one, guess what? God made light and darkness. And there was day and night the first day. Light and darkness. But it's interesting as you think about day one, day two, and day three, there is just light there. It's not until you get into day four that the sun and the moon are created and the stars. So in between day 1 and day 4, what was the light? Where was the light coming from? It's kind of mind-boggling to think about. There was day and there was night, but there was no sun, moon, stars. Where was the light? And in studying this this past week, I found it intriguing that 3 out of the 4 gospel accounts, in their opening comments, in their opening thoughts, mention something about Jesus being a light. 3 out of the 4 gospels in their beginning have something about Jesus being the light. Do you think that they thought it was important? Do you think they thought that Jesus being the light was an important concept for us to grasp, and to grab a hold of? I think so. In Matthew, and we're looking at all 3 of those, but in Matthew chapter 4, before Jesus' ministry begins, this is what it says. And again, we're coming out of, Jesus being in the wilderness, the temptations, 40 days fasting, the 3 temptations of the devil. This is what it says coming from the book of Isaiah, about chapter 42 or so. Verse 16, Matthew chapter 4 and verse 16. This is a prophecy about Jesus. The people dwelling in darkness have seen a great light. And for those dwelling in the region of the shadow of death, on them a light has dawned. Jesus, this light. When we think about this, Jesus is this anticipated light, this light for the people who are dwelling in darkness, for the people who are in the midst of the pitch black Egyptian darkness, a darkness to be felt. On them, a great light has dawned. Jesus has been from the very beginning, 700 years ago. This prophecy was fulfilled or predicted, and now we have its fulfillment in what Jesus is about to accomplish in his ministry, shining this light. Now, in the ministry of Jesus, in the life of Jesus, there's a lot of things that he shed light on, right? He shed light on the old covenant. He shed light on God, the concept, the entity of God, relationship with God. He shed light on your hearts, right? To tell you that sin emanates from your heart. He shed light on our relationship with one another, our relationship with our neighbors, our relationship with the world. But this was one of the things that was highly anticipated that Jesus, the Messiah, was going to do. This idea continues in Luke chapter 1, verse 79, when we have this quotation from Isaiah again. But it gives us another aspect, a different flavor, a different layer, if you will, of the anticipated light. Look at what it says here towards the end, the second to last verse in chapter 1 of Luke. Jesus coming to give light to those who sit in darkness and in the shadow of death. Now, we just got done reading about that. But look at what it adds here. To guide our feet into the way of peace. Jesus, as the light, gives us peace. Peace specifically in this context, peace so that we can walk in a way where we can find serenity. Now, we're talking about our lifestyle. Have you ever maybe you're in your house and the lights are off. Have you ever tried to walk from room to room in the dark and it didn't go so good? Maybe you're walking from point A to point B with the lights off and you can't see. I mean, you know where nothing's changed. You know where everything's at. But maybe your toe hits something, or maybe Grammy got our kids jacks. Yeah. For Easter. Have you ever stepped on jacks in the middle of the night? Or Legos or something pointy, or when you turn on the lights, right? There's a assurance, right? There's a calm. I know where my feet are going. I have peace just in the fact that I know I'm confident in it. That's the way that it is with Jesus. The world can collapse around you, but there's a peace, there's a calm, there's an assurance just because of the light. I think one of the more famous ideas about Jesus as the light comes from John, and he quotes it again, or he thinks about it again in what we've already read in John chapter 8 and verse 12. But he begins in John chapter 1 with that idea in verse 4 and verse 5. In him, Jesus, in him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness does not overcome it. In him was life. The life was the light of men. Step back and think about that idea of life coming from light. Everything that we know, everything that we can touch in this world, it hinges on light, doesn't it? It revolves around the sun being the light. And that allows, photosynthesis, which allows plants to grow, which allows animals to eat, which allows us to eat, right? Everything revolves around the light. In fact, it's so important that these people who live in Alaska or Russia or places where the sun doesn't shine very often, those months of darkness, they have UV lights in their house so that their very bodies can get the light that it needs, the vitamins that it needs that comes from the light. Everything in our world, it needs light. And it's this concept here in verse 4 and verse 5. The life was the light of men. Life comes from light. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has never overcome it. It will never overcome it. It has not overcome it. What a beautiful thought. This is the light of the world. This is the light that we can live in, that we can walk in, that gives us peace and hope and life. That's the good news. Here's the bad news. Verse 5, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. This is where we come into play. We enter the domain of darkness. We enter this realm of dark and evil. I don't know what it is, but even these old Westerns, right? You're watching Matt Dillon. The antagonist, he's always dressed in dark clothing, right? Like he's always you can pick him out, right? Because he's the guest star. You can pick him out, and you know who is evil, right? That's the domain of darkness. We understand that concept. We used to be in that domain of darkness. But the good news is that the light of life has called us out of darkness. Look at a few verses with me again. In Colossians chapter 1, This passage in particular of all of the things that Paul has written, the 13 books, Colossians chapter 1, starting in about verse 3 and moving through the rest of the chapter, is one of my favorites. It is chock full of meat, theological, thought-provoking meat. Almost every single phrase you could chew on for quite some time. But look at what verse 13, for our study, look at what verse 13 says. He has delivered us from the domain of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son, in whom, verse 14, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of our sins. He has delivered us out of the domain of darkness. And he has transferred us to the kingdom of his, that's the light, out of darkness. And now we've been transplanted, transported here, transferred into the realm of light. Out of darkness into light. He has delivered us. There's a bad thing going on in darkness. Hence, we need deliverance. The book of Judges, if you remember from your studies, the book of Judges this is a familiar concept when you think about the book of Judges, deliverance. Because the people of Israel, they were tormented by a particular, let me sum up the book of Judges. They were tormented by a particular group of people, and therefore, God handed them over to those people. And then they called out to God, and God raised up, the book of Judges says over and over and over again, God raised up a deliverer. God raised up a deliverer. Someone that would take them, right? That would rescue them from their plight in life and take them back into a place where they can enjoy freedom. That's what we see here. A reenactment of the book of Judges, where we have been delivered out of darkness. That's a bad place. We're oppressed. You remember Gideon, who was one of those deliverers, was found for the first time in the book of Judges, chapter 6. He was found in the threshing floor, right? He was found, or down in the winepress. He was found down in that gully, that low place, because he was scared to death of the Midianites. It's a scary place to be in the domain of darkness, in the realm of darkness, surrounded by darkness. Look at one more passage here in 1 Peter. Again, tracing this idea of the domain of darkness and what the light of the world has done for us. 1 Peter chapter 2, where Peter begins this exposition of Jesus and our relationship to him. He begins with stating that Jesus is our rock, interestingly enough. But he moves from that into verse 9 when he says, but you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who, look at it, who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Isn't that great? Isn't that an enticing concept to be a part of? He has called you out of darkness and into his marvelous light. Right? That's what God has done for us. He's called us out of darkness. I don't know if you've ever been to a cave. I know Marengo Cave up here, a little ways away. Mammoth Cave, a little ways down there. Those are fun. I enjoy them anyway. But you get down there, I mean, it's There's it's cold and dark, right? I mean, those are the two. It's cold and dark. But in some of those tours that I've done in the past, I remember these bodies of water, right? And in those bodies of water, you know what I'm talking about? There's these. I mean, it's an entire ecosystem down there. That ecosystem, the fish and the bats, like the insects, everything down, like everything's blind. They can't see. You bring those things out of where they are and into the light, they're going to die. And thinking, this is what God has done for us. God has called us. We're in that cave. We're in that cold, dark, clammy place where sin and Satan rules. And he's called to us. Come over here. Come to me. And he's called us out of that cave and invited us to step into the light. And through stepping into the light, right, we have peace, we have hope, we have assurance, and we have life. Because when we find ourselves in the cave, we are blind. I mean, we are just absolutely blinded to life, peace, hope, joy, everything. But when we step out of that cave and into the light, we have an existence. And it's all because he has, as we're in the cave, he's called to us. He has called out of the cave, called us out of darkness, and invited us to step into his light, the light of the world. Which leads us to this third thought. We've got Jesus, the light of the world, and we are in this domain of darkness, but he's called us, he's delivered us, and he's allowed us to become children of light. And that's where we find ourselves. I mean, that's the goal that all of us have, right? To be a child of light. Look at this concept as it's fleshed out for us in the book of First Thessalonians in chapter 5, the last chapter here in First Thessalonians. A short and powerful book. Look at what it says here in verse 5 of chapter 5. It says, "For you are all children of light, children of the day. We are not of the night or of darkness. You are children of light." But as that thought continues, you have, beginning in verse 6, 7, and 8, three different let us statements. Let us do this, let us do this, and let us do this. And as you look at those, you have in verse 5, you have it unfolded for us what we need to do. As children of light, look at this. So then, since you're children of light, so then let us not sleep. Don't go to sleep. Maybe some of us need that right now. So then let us not sleep as others do, but let us keep awake and be sober. For those who sleep, sleep at night. We're not children of the night, we're children of the day. For those who sleep, sleep at night, and those who get drunk are drunk at night. But, verse 8, but since we belong to the day, let us be sober, having put on the breastplate of faith and love and a helmet of hope, of the hope of salvation. Let us, 1, not sleep. Let us, 2, keep awake. Let us, 3, be sober. If we could boil all those down, those let us statements, if we could boil all those down into one, the encouragement is to be anticipatory, to anticipate the coming of Jesus. Let's look forward to Jesus. Let's anticipate his coming. Let us not sleep. Let us keep awake. Let us be sober. It reminds me of the garden, doesn't it? 3 times Jesus came back, and 3 times he found them sleeping. And then they heard the clanking of the armor, the swords, and saw the flicker of the torches. Stay awake. Anticipate, especially here in this context, anticipate Jesus' coming, since we are children of the day. If you flip back just a couple of pages, you're in the book of Ephesians. And here in chapter 5, I want to draw your attention to one verse, actually one context, but one verse in that context. Chapter 5 and verse 8. For at one time, this is what he says, and this is a great summation of all the things that we've talked about so far. For at one time, you were darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. Then the thought continues, for the fruit of the light is found in all that is good and right and true. This is how you walk in the light. You produce the fruit of the light and try to discern what is pleasing to the Lord. That is the thoughts of those who are right. And take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness. That's the actions of light. For it is shameful. There's a powerful verse. For it is shameful even to speak of the things they do in secret. Our exhortation here back in verse 8 is one word: walk. You anticipate back in 1 Thessalonians 5 and verse 5. You anticipate Jesus is coming. And as we anticipate Jesus is coming, Ephesians chapter 5 tells us that we need to walk in the light. Rather, walk as children of light. That's the way that you live, the way that you behave, the way that you act. That is walking. That is what you do when you leave. It's not what you're doing right now. Walking as a child of the light is what you do when you exit. Therefore, if you're going to be a child of light, if you're going to be in the light, you need to walk in the light. And then there's our favorite idea, favorite concept when we think about the light, and at least it's mine. In Jesus' Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5, this is what Jesus says about the light and our responsibility as children of light. For you are the light of the world. Now, wait a minute. Hold up, Jesus. John, back there in John chapter 8 and verse 12, he said that you claim to be the light of the world. But now you're telling me that I'm the light of the world? Well, hold on to that thought. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. Don't negate John chapter 8, verse 12, Jesus' claim as being the light of the world. I believe it is in perfect harmony with this concept of us being the light of the world. We are the light of the world insofar as we are transparent. The very name that we carry every single day is Christian, right? And as a Christian, I'm carrying the name of Christ to be like him. So as I live, as I walk as a child of the light, what I am doing is I am shining. I'm not shining my own light. I am transparent. You can see right through me. and you can see Jesus shining through what I'm doing. When people see you, when people see me, God forbid that they ever see me. I want, as people look at me and what I do, I want them to see Jesus. I don't want them to look at me. Look at the end of verse 16. Isn't that the very concept here? That they may see your good works. Yeah, they're looking at you. They're looking at what you're doing. But what is the result? And give glory to your Father who is in heaven. I want them to see God in me. I want them to see Jesus as the light of the world. I want them to see him shining through me. In short, all I want to do is be a vessel. I just want to be a tool, a little baby light of Jesus. I love this idea found in verse 15. Verse 14, rather. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Have you ever seen those aerial photographs of the United States in the dark? Those are really cool to look at. As you look at them and examine them, you can almost see all the major cities because the lights are there. There's so much light coming from that particular city that it can't be hidden. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. There are so many lights here. We can't be hidden. We don't need to be hidden. We need to be like that aerial photograph of the United States or all over the world where you see the lights emanating out of darkness, surrounded by darkness. That light shines bright. That's what we need to be. So we think about this concept of darkness and overcoming darkness. The good news is that there's light, and Jesus is the light of the whole world. The bad news is that we live in the domain of darkness until the light of the world delivers us and calls us out of that darkness to be a part of his kingdom of light. And once you're a part of that kingdom, your sins have been washed away. Once you're a part of that kingdom, you behave like it. You walk like it. You act like it. You talk like it. In fact, you shine like it as Jesus shines through you. Maybe you're not shining as bright as you need to, or maybe you're still living in darkness. The darkness is going to be conquered by light one day. The invitation that Jesus gives you, not me, invitation that Jesus gives you is to come out of darkness and into his marvelous light. If you need to do that, won't you do that as we stand and sing?